Okay, I'm really starting to like this show because it's goddamn hilarious. Because for two reasons, right? For one, the writer, whoever's writing this show, has absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing, and they don't care, which is convenient because the target audience for this show and the fans of this show, they don't know what's going on and they don't care either. Because for this episode to work, you would have to ignore about 70% of the MCU storyline to actually make this forced, specific, exact type of episode work. You would have to ignore about 70% of the MCU storyline because if you acknowledge any of that, none of this episode doesn't work. Okay? Like I'll give you an example, okay? The Avengers Initiative. Now, this movie takes place around, Iron Man 2 and a bit before, right? Now, in the MCU timeline, the Avengers Initiative at this time that this episode takes place, in the timeline that this episode takes place, the Avengers Initiative is no longer viable. It's gone. They gave up on it. They quit. Because what they had done was they were working on phase 2, okay? They were working on phase 2, which was the weaponizing of the Tesseract. Because do you remember in the Avengers movie, right, when Agent Coulson had that gun, right, or that weapon and shot Loki with it? Like, do you at least remember that scene? Do you at least remember, Agent Coulson and, Loki having that speech and then Agent Coulson firing the gun, hitting Loki and Agent Coulson go, oh, so that's what it does. Do you at least remember that scene? Okay. That weapon that Agent Coulson was using, that was part of phase 2. That was what was going on during the timeline this episode takes place. Meaning, the Avengers Initiative was canceled. So having Dr. Pym use the Avengers as a way of trying to get back at Nick Fury to try and tear down the thing that he loved and created is bullshit because he wasn't even creating it. He didn't even consider Tony Stark as part of the Avengers. Nick Fury didn't even accept Tony Stark as part of the potential candidates for the Avengers Initiative. Okay? Because according to Romanov's, assessment, he doesn't play well with others, right? So he wasn't even supposed to be part of it. There was no way of knowing that the Hulk could have even possibly have been recruited. Okay? Then you have Thor. I love the absolute bullshit. You are so stupid mentality to justify killing Thor in this episode. Because get this. Dr. Pym wanted to kill Thor, okay, because he could have been a potential candidate to join the Avengers Initiative, right? Okay, here's the problem. At the time that Thor was shown in the Thor movie, nobody knew he was Thor. Everybody thought he was just some guy, just another guy trying to lift up the hammer. There is no way Dr. Pym could have possibly known that blonde-haired big, you know that guy with the really nice blonde hair and smells of lavender? There was no way anybody could have known he was Thor, including Dr. Pym. So there was no reason for Dr. Pym to kill just some random guy trying to pretend that he could lift Mjolnir. So why would Dr. Pym kill him? Like this show doesn't know what it's doing. This show doesn't know what it's doing, and it doesn't care. Then we have Loki, right? Okay. At the time that this takes place, because again, you're showing the scene of Thor as he's trying to pick up Mjolnir for the first time and fails. Well, what's happening in Asgard during this time? Oh, I don't know. Odin is in the Odin sleep. Loki has now made himself king of Asgard, and there's a war with Jotunheim going on. No, don't worry about any of that. You're not only that, Loki has absolutely no interest in Thor. He wants him dead and killed and gone. Okay? He wants him gone. But no, I'm going to ignore this episode has Loki going, yeah, I don't care about being the fact that I'm the king of Asgard. I don't care that I got a plan to kill, Odin with the underhanded plan with the Jotunheim that I'm going to double cross them with. I'm going to ignore all that. I'm going to go down to Earth and I'm going to grab Thor's body that nobody's going to know except him. Okay? But then this is to show the absolute level of bullshit stupid of this episode and you fans of this show. So he ends up teaming up with Nick Fury, right, to capture Dr. Pym, right? The next scene, because then Loki goes, oh, I think I'll stay a while. The very next scene, which is basically the next day, Loki has taken over the world. What do you mean Loki's taken over the world? It was that easy? If it was that easy, why did he need to make a deal with Thanos in the Avengers movie? Why did he need the Tesseract in the Avengers movie? Why did he need the help of, I forget the name of the doctor that helped Jane Foster. I can't remember. The older gentleman, right? Him. Why did he need Hawkeye? Why did he need the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to create an army? Why did he need the Chitauri? This episode simply has him go, the next day he's taken over and everybody just agrees with him. Yeah, the UN, the entire United Nations and all the countries, yeah, they've all decided to fall under my rule. What? First of all, Loki didn't even have the desire to want to rule the world until he lost Asgard. So let me see if I get this straight. At the time that this episode is taking place, Loki is king of Asgard. And this show is going, apparently Loki has given up on betraying Odin and killing him, has given up the war on Jotunheim, and has decided he doesn't want to be king of Asgard anymore and prove to his father that, he was a worthy successor. He's given that all up and decided he wants to rule Midgard. Why? Because the only reference the majority of you boneheaded, fake geek culture, brain-dead Marvel zombie fanboys know about Loki is, oh yeah, remember how in the Avengers movie he wanted to take over Earth? Yeah. We're just going to have, in this episode, we're just going to have Loki take over and it's all off screen. Within a day, he took over everything. Whereas in the Avengers movie, he needed the Tesseract, he needed to deal with Thanos, he needed the Chitauri, he needed all that stuff. But in this episode, no, just the next day he had a chit. He went out to T'Challa, okay? Nothing can't be overcome with a good conversation. So, just like T'Challa was able to just talk Thanos out of killing half the universe, in this show, Loki was just able to convince all the members of the United Nations and all the countries to just, bow down before him altogether. And then at the end, right, you have this idea that Nick Fury is going to try and create a new Avengers and is going to start off with Captain America and Carol Danvers. Well, wait a minute. What about, and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, what about James Rhodes? What about, War Machine? Because you see, the timeline that this takes place, you see, when Nick Fury was chit-chatting with Tony Stark at the donut shop, okay, from Iron Man 2, do you know what the previous scene of that was? It was Tony Stark's birthday, where Tony Stark and James Rhodes, or like Iron Man and War Machine, battle it out, and James Rhodes takes War Machine and flies off, right? Because in the movie, the scene is like, how was a brother? The brother just took your suit and went off. Is that possible? And Black Widow goes, no, there's like multiple redundancies or something like that. So Tony Stark let James Rhodes take War Machine. So where the hell is James Rhodes? Where's War Machine in this goddamn episode? And if Dr. Pym wanted to kill any possible potential Avenger that may or may not actually end up being an Avenger, if he thought some random guy that tried to pick up Mjolnir was a possible threat, why didn't he try to kill James Rhodes? James Rhodes would have been a potential Avenger. What about T'Challa, the Black Panther? He could have been a potential Avenger. Why didn't he try and kill T'Challa? Because at this time, oh shoot, I can't remember his father's name. T'Chaka? I hope I got that right. T'Chaka, his father, was still alive. So the father was king and T'Challa was the Black Panther. Why didn't Dr. Henry Pym try and kill T'Challa? Oh, because he wasn't technically an Avenger. So you're only killing the people that actually end up being an Avenger. But he kills some random guy that might possibly be an Avenger, even though he wasn't on the Avengers Initiative list at all. Okay? So you could have killed, you should have been, Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson's the only one that was trained to be able to use the Falcon suit. The Falcon suit was locked up, and they had to, Falcon and Black Widow and Captain America, they had to, steal it back. Wouldn't Nick Fury have gone, well, hey, I know about the Falcon outfit, and I know about Sam Wilson. Why wouldn't he have recruited him? Why wouldn't Dr. Henry Pym go, well, hey, Sam Wilson's a potential possibility of the Avengers? And like, this doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have to ignore so much of the MCU storyline to have this forced bullshit, stupid story arc. It was ridiculous. What else? How they killed the Hulk. You gotta be shitting me. Are you? How did it work? The writers of this show. I got a question. How did Dr. Pym kill the Hulk? What did he do? How did he make it so that the Hulk, expanded and blew up? Like, how did that work? The show doesn't explain it because the show has none. It had no way of figuring out how to kill the Hulk, so they just made it that it happened without any way of justifying how it could have happened. Blonsky, because of the scene in the Hulk where the scene in the episode takes place, where's Blonsky? I mean, the scene that they show in the episode, by that time in the movie, Blonsky's already gotten the serum. Well, where's Blonsky in this episode? No, we're ignoring again. This episode, okay, requires ignoring 70%. Ignore 70%. Here's another one. They literally retconned Mark Ruffalo into the Hulk movie. What happened to Ed Norton? This episode retcons Mark Ruffalo into. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And Mark Ruffalo is hiding out with Betty Ross. What happened to him? What happened to him in the Avengers movie when he was hiding out to try and stay away? This episode doesn't care. This episode just simply goes this part here, this part here, this part here, and everything else that, is connected to it, we're going to conveniently ignore because otherwise there's no way this episode story could possibly work. That's what I love about this show now. It's literally just all about explaining how full of shit this episode is, how full of shit the writers are, and how full of shit and what brain dead Marvel zombie fake fanboys all of the people who like this show and are fans of this show are. Because every episode, every time there's a movie, every episode is just another example that establishes how full of shit the fan base is of the MCU. Okay? You're goddamn useless and brain dead stupid. Okay? And you're such fake comic book fans, fake geek, whatever. But I'm sure there's more, but I covered the big stuff. Everything else after this is irrelevant. But this is the what if. This is the MCU. Okay? Pulling shit out of their ass, not knowing what they're doing, not caring, because guess what? Neither does their audience. Their audience doesn't know jack shit or even care. Excuse me. Anyway, that's it. That's episode 3, ladies and gentlemen. God knows what's going to happen in episode 4, but I'm going to be there to enjoy and laugh and mock and explain how stupid you all are for loving this show and pretending to be MCU comic book fans. Anyway, I'm out of here. See ya.